Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining. Welcome, Mike, Jamie, Trading Desk, Hunter, B, Keisha, Vicky, and G. Thank you guys so much for joining today. As always, let us know what stocks you're watching. So far this morning, stocks are in the green, generally speaking. Palantir's up pretty well. They're getting close to that $23 area. They're slowly inching up there, but definitely keep an eye on Palantir this morning. It's trending up and it has good momentum. Welcome Carlos to the stream too. But with the first question, we have Trading Desk saying Uber's dip due to SoftBank inclinations on duration of the dip. So I did see that news with SoftBank. They are selling their shares to cover other losses. Obviously, it's not a good sign, but it's not like a horrible catalyst. Only God knows when it'll turn around exactly. But looking at the chart, I would say as long as it holds that, you could say that $43 support, it should be good. But there's so many variables when it comes to things like this. And then on top of that, there is earnings pretty soon. So Tom, what are you thinking with this one?
I think Uber could do pretty decent over the next couple months, especially over the next year. I think that support down there at 43 that you pointed out is honestly really big, especially in the longer term for Uber. Not for the next few days. I think it could go either way, but especially with the earnings coming up. But man, I'd really expect them to kind of get back up there and maybe start to go on that another upside run eventually. Now, if they break this support and move to the downside, unfortunately, that's just something that could happen. But I would think right now with Powell kind of being somewhat positive and them kind of keeping their buying programs the same, I would hope that it could help stocks go up over the next few months.
Alrighty, and then we have welcome Santiago, Jay, Corbin, Mindy, Gerard. Thank you guys so much for joining. And then Alex too. And then let's see. So we have Jay saying, any thoughts on Facebook? So let's take a look. Facebook got hit pretty hard to say the least yesterday. It was kind of tanking right when we recorded yesterday's video. It's down around 3%, but honestly with this one, I would not be surprised if we saw just a slow sell-off over the next couple weeks. I was looking through a lot of flow over the past 2 weeks, and I saw a lot of put debit spreads come in on a lot of different tech stocks and even the QQQ. So personally, I just think that stocks are getting to a point where investors are going to start to de-risk themselves. And then on top of that, there are just certain other stocks out there at some pretty good levels like Penn, Palantir, DraftKings, and a lot of other ones, even Boeing and some of these cruise lines where I think it just makes more sense to transition into those. And I think the smart money is going to follow through with that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they will too. And the main thing right now is almost also risk reward. You're looking at Boeing here. I know that this is kind of what you meant, Mike, but a lot of these stocks are at all-time highs. And Boeing, for example, they're way off of their all-time highs. So if we just look at the percentages here and we look at Boeing, if they get back up to their pre-COVID levels, we're looking at a 50% pop back up to that 350 resistance all the way up there. So see, that's a pretty big gain to the upside. But then we go look at something like Facebook, and there's almost no gain up to the top because they're honestly at all-time highs. So it's a pretty big difference, I should say, between a lot of these stocks and then these stocks at all-time highs, especially the cruise lines and Boeing. Like Mike said, there's just so much upside potential that I think a lot of investors are going to see, hey, if I hold CCL for a few years, I can make 100%. But if I hold Facebook for a few years, if it doubles, that's really good. But it doesn't have, I don't think, as high of a chance as some of these other stocks that are lower, just because they need to get back to their old valuations, Facebook, and then they're over and past their old valuations. So a lot of these other stocks are almost still in recovery mode.
For sure. I mean, the valuations on Apple's and a lot of these other tech stocks are getting pretty crazy. And then we have Corbin saying, I sold my gold calls. I missed out on a grand today. What do you think? What do you think, Tom? Will it consolidate or continue up? Thanks. So, Tom, what are you thinking with GLD? I know Corbin's been playing some calls on it, and he actually sold pretty early. So, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think that GLD can do pretty well. In the short term, GLD's been popping up pretty nicely, actually, off of what Powell said yesterday. And I think that shows that gold might start going up over the next couple weeks. If it does, expect GLD to maybe retest this 180 resistance I think it might be pretty hard to get through there. That's going to be a very hard level in the shorter term. But as far as GLD goes, it's a pretty hard stock to trade. There's lots of factors that go into this. As of right now, after Powell talked, it's sending it to the upside. So that's the reason why I'm going to have a little bit of a bullish sentiment over the next couple weeks. And we are kind of holding this 100 SMA on the daily pretty well, too.
Alrighty. And then we have B saying, how do you guys feel about NUCOR, Nucor, the upside for the short term? I feel like they could benefit from the infrastructure deal. So let me get a ticker on this real quick. Nucor, that is NUE. Let's see. I mean, honestly, I haven't really been following it that much. It's up around 2%. Like I said, I really haven't been following it too much. They do have resistance around 105 and support around, you can say, like 92 to 93. And I'm just kind of watching those levels.
Yeah, NUE is a really hard stock to trade in the short term, I'd say. They had a really momentous run, almost straight to the upside for a couple months. And then they're kind of pulling back, but it looks like they are trying to get back up there and retest. But there's a lot of resistance overhead. So it makes it a little hard right now, but it does look like it's trying to hold that $100 level and trying to go up here.
Alrighty. And then we have Santiago saying the VIX is making lower lows. Yes, it is. Let me take a look at it real quick. So, yeah, it's definitely pulling back a little bit as the market is, one, calming down, but also trending to the upside. We're getting pretty late in the week. A lot of the major earnings have already passed. And then on top of that, the FOMC is over. Really the only other, like, major catalyst that I see is that Robinhood IPO, but it's not like that would affect like the entire market. But we actually had Ali saying today is Hood Day, so yeah, it looks like we're starting to see some anticipation of this IPO.
Yeah, and it's still not on here, of course, but man, we're definitely anticipating it coming later on, and it's going to be a pretty big deal, I think, when it finally hits the market. I think we'll see a lot of traders run into HOOD, and it's going to be interesting. A lot of people are saying that this could go down because of all the problems that Robinhood has had and all the stuff that went on with like GME, like not allowing people to, like buy into positions and stuff like that. So there's just a lot of weird stuff that happened that made people kind of have it put a sour taste in their mouth regarding Robinhood. So we'll have to see how this one ends up going. And it might do that stuff like where it opens up really high and then tanks off.
Alrighty. And then we have, let's see. We have Gerard saying, good morning. What is the resistance on BABA? Thanks. And then we had Carlos saying, have the China stocks bottom? So two China questions. So if we look at BABA, I know it is popping up pretty well, especially over the past couple days. I mean, only like no one knows for sure if they bottom, but personally, I just, it's just, yes, I would think that they are close to their bottom, but it's just so hard to give like an accurate prediction because, China can say anything tomorrow or next week and that can just completely throw off the setup. So I would think that they're getting close to their bottom, but then again, they have earnings in a couple days. So it's hard to give an accurate prediction for it. Tom, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think that BABA could do pretty decent, I think, in the shorter term. Like you said, those earnings can really make it do anything, but the fact that it's getting up near this $200 resistance to me is pretty good. And, we failed to hold above that today at open, which is a little bit of a bad sign. But as long as we can like get back above there, I think that we'll do pretty good for like the next couple months. Don't be surprised if we like trade between a range of maybe like the lows of like 180 and then like the high up here around 220. I wouldn't be surprised if we went into like some consolidation mode or just, the stock went flat for a little while, especially with all this stuff going on. I don't think that a bunch of investors are necessarily just going to jump right back into BABA after what happened. But I think that if the Chinese government gives us like some good convictions or some good news comes out, I think that it might help a lot of people get in, especially if we see that like the US and China are kind of like, getting back on the right foot or something like that.
Yeah, so the major two resistance levels I'm watching is 200 and then 204 for BABA. And then we have, we have Click saying thoughts on AMZ. AMZ. Let's take a look. It's down a little bit today. Looks like this is an index. I've never even heard of this. So I've never even heard of this one. So Then we have JB saying NOK, let's go. Let's take a look. NOK.
Wow.
Yeah, they're popping up really well, Tom.
Yeah, they actually broke that $6 resistance today on the way up, and that's actually a really good move. They had those earnings, and they had looks like they did actually pretty good. So that's a great sign. I'm glad that they went up above $6. That was a key resistance level for Nokia here, and I'm really happy to see this. It's a pretty good move, honestly, and hopefully we see more good momentum today. Although a lot of times we see the stock go up on earnings and then maybe fall off for the next day or two. So I wouldn't be surprised as far as that goes. But man, I've heard some good things with Nokia lately, and their chart is honestly starting to get really, really good. Ever since they passed that $5 resistance, I think they've looked pretty solid.
Yeah, they're popping up, and I know a lot of people are holding them, so I love to see this. And then we have Keisha saying, are you guys still bullish on Zoom? So personally, I am definitely still bullish on Zoom, but not to the extent I was back in May. It's popped a decent amount, and it's up around 3% today. So I am bullish on them, but it's more of like a longer term play, and it's not as strong of a conviction as it was 2 months ago.
Yeah, it's not quite as strong, but I think it's still pretty decent, especially in the shorter term. Like I know that it would be terrible, of course, if Zoom started to fall back down, but if we saw it maybe come back down and retest like 300 or something, I think it would bring in a lot more buyers. But in the end, I think it's still a pretty good setup right now. And like how I said, how we talked about how a lot of those tech stocks are highs and traders might jump back into some of these other stocks that have been kind of beaten down. You know, Zoom is still like 56% off its highs. So that's a pretty good move if we can get back to all-time highs over the next couple of years. A 56% gain is never bad.
Of course. And then we have Alex saying, how does LVS look for today? Not bad. I mean, it was selling off a little bit a couple minutes ago, LVS intraday. It's bouncing off this support around 44 right now. It is making higher lows slowly. So if we look over like the past couple days, we can see the first low is around 43.10. Next low is around 43.70. And it looks like the next low should be around 44. So that is a good sign. Obviously, it's not like popping up and exploding with a ton of momentum. LVS, Tom. But it's I think it looks pretty good still. It's going to be a hold for a couple days most likely.
Yeah, LVS I think might be a pretty good play. You know, we have a lot of these we had a lot of these stocks kind of popping up yesterday, like DraftKings, LVS, lots of stocks like that, and they're expected to do pretty well over the next couple months. So I would think LVS could easily start to turn it around. And honestly, on the daily chart, they're at a pretty good like long-term support at that $43 mark, Mike. That's actually like really defined over the past couple of years. It's had tons of bounces there.
Yeah, hopefully we see a nice bounce. And then, let's see, we have 11 saying, morning guys, what about 5-9, which is FIVN? Let's take a look. FIVN. I mean, it's running up. It has good momentum right now. I know, yeah, I mean, they're breaking above this $200 resistance. I'm trying to see something real quick. I mean, it's their all-time high, so they don't really have any other major resistance right now. It could be good for, like, a quick momentum play, but, you know, there's not really any resistance, which can be a good thing.
Yeah, and they had like a lot of volatility for some reason a couple weeks ago. I don't know what was going on in after or in pre-market there, but man, that was some crazy moves. But honestly, the chart looks really good on the daily. It's just like you said, it's just kind of like at all-time highs though. So of course it can keep going, but you would expect it to come back eventually. But for right now, man, this stock seems so solid. I wish I would have heard about it a couple of years ago. I remember hearing about it, but man, it's been a stock that's definitely been like under the radar for like the past couple of years. I don't know about you, Mike, but I haven't heard people talk about it too much.
Tom, check out AMD.
Are we doing it again? Oh yeah, look at that. We're up above $100 actually. I love to see that. AMD's looking awesome. This is an awesome company. I'm really glad to see this one. The Max Daily is starting to look awesome. Like I said, all-time highs. This is a pretty good move, and man, those earnings looks like they really helped them out. You know, they initially in after hours kind of went up, went down, kind of went flat, and then yesterday had that huge move. So I'm really glad to see AMD doing this. It's been a long time. You know, they've been kind of on the Max Daily consolidating between like $95 and $70 just about for like the past ever since almost like July or April of last year. So that's a really good sign to see it finally breaking out. And I know lots of people are bullish on AMD, but Mike, this is a pretty good move.
Oh yeah, huge. And then we have, let's see, we have Jay saying TDOC is moving up. Let's take a look at this one. I know it had some crazy movement over the past week, and I cannot believe this earnings movement. So let me go to an intraday chart. So what was it? 2 days ago they report earnings. They close at like 150. They fall all the way down to 133, run all the way up to 152, and now they're about to break 155, or they broke 155. So they've been all over the place.
Yeah, that was actually a really good bounce off that lower support, or at least like really close to it. Whenever they had that big move to the downside on those earnings, there's a huge support at 130, and they got pretty close to it on the daily chart. That's actually a pretty good move there. I'm glad to see it bounce off of that. And man, it looks like it held very, very well. And looks like we might start to see a pretty good upside move for like the next couple weeks, possibly. This doesn't mean tomorrow we're going to see green again or anything like that. But I think that like over the next couple weeks, we'll definitely see some good moves.
Zoom is popping, Tom. It's up like 4.5% already.
Wow, this is your stock, Mike. Zoom is one of your favorites. I can't believe it's already, it had that good move earlier up above 380 and we just still rocketing up. This is honestly pretty good. The max daily is showing a pretty good move actually off of these bottom levels, off of some of these SMAs too. So honestly, I really like it. Hopefully we can come up and retest like that $400 resistance there. I think that would be pretty solid. And man, I think a lot of people are honestly going to target that level.
All right. And then we have Sean saying Workhorse is on the move. Let's take a look. WKHS, yeah, it's popping 7%. Wow.
Yeah, another big mover. Well, there's a lot of stocks actually popping back up today, and a lot of them have been kind of consolidating for the past couple of weeks, which is great to see. I know lots of people have been trying to jump back into Workhorse lately. They've been really beaten down on the daily, but they've been consolidating really well at that like $11 support area. And now this is just such a great move. Hopefully you can continue this for tomorrow because man, if we could get a continuous string of like good opens, like where we see a nice like 5% jump up at open on some of these stocks for a couple days, it could be a pretty big turnaround.
Sounds good. We have Santiago saying SPY just broke all-time high. It got close, but the all-time high is right around $441.16. But yeah, it's definitely getting pretty close. And it has a lot of momentum right now. Let me check something real quick. And then let's see. We have Trading Desk saying, now I have no resistance levels on AMD. Yeah, they're breaking that all-time high and they're just exploding up. There really aren't any levels to watch out for right now. At this point, normally, like you look towards like whole dollar levels, like you'll look at like 101, 102, 103, and especially like the 105, 110, 115. Normally those are like pretty strong, but there's no solid way to like see resistance on AMD when it's just flying past all-time high.
Yeah, it's really hard to tell. You could just look at some solid levels like 105 and maybe just call that, your resistance, because you're not going to know until you see like a big wall of sellers come in. One thing you can try to do is maybe like read like the time and sales, and you might, for example, like if you see AMD run up to like 101.50 or something, and then you start to see it pull back really big on like the 1 minute chart, and you see a bunch of big sellers come in, like big orders, like 500, 1,000, etc. Like multiple of those come in, then you'll start to see a lot of you might be able to tell that that's the top, but that's a pretty hard strategy to try to find, a top that way. So it's almost unrealistic to try to do that.
All right, and then we have Hunter saying, check ANVS. It got cut in half. So, yeah, this thing got destroyed. It looks like there was a circuit breaker on it. And then for the news, it looks like they presented new clinical and biomarker data at some conference. So that's crazy. It looks like a biotech stock, obviously. But, man, it's getting destroyed. Too bad there aren't any options on this one.
Yeah, that's too bad. This honestly is pretty good move to the downside. So that would be a pretty good time to sell those puts or something like that. But man, this is honestly this is just a thing that happens with some of these biotech stocks. They get that good momentum. The FDA probably cleared them over here and they went flying up. And then I bet now that, the FDA, obviously they did something there. So it's just it's a really bad sign for some of these stocks, You can always catch them at good times. Like it's like an earnings play though, like you never know what the FDA is going to say before you get in. A lot of people were probably grabbing shares before this, thinking that it might double or triple or something weird on like a clearance.
Yeah, true that for sure. Let's see what else. So, like, the main stock I see this morning is Zoom. This thing is exploding up. Tesla's not doing bad today either. Facebook's tanking down pretty hard. But besides that, it's really Zoom that's getting all the attention. Qualcomm's running up pretty nicely. Square is not doing bad. Apple's trending up a little bit. But the main stock I see is Zoom this morning.
Yeah, Zoom is looking really good. That's obviously one of the bigger movers right now. That's Zoom has just been like a big mover for some reason the past week. They've really hit that. They hit that bottom level a couple like a week or two ago around like 350 and just have really been turning it around. Honestly, it's been looking pretty solid. So it's been looking good. There is that big resistance today around 390 though. Looks like we are hitting off of that and catching some red as of right now. So maybe that'll hold up for today as being like one of those upper levels.
All right. And then we have, let's see, Jorge saying FVRR is breaking out. Let's take a look. FVRR. So yeah, it's down a little bit right now, but it was just testing that like $260 level, and it definitely has potential. It's been running for a couple days, but it's at resistance right now. If it has a lot of momentum with this breakout, it could be solid.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot of other stocks kind of break out right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Fiverr start to move up above this level. And I think that you're right. It looks like a pretty solid setup if we could start to break out.
What are you thinking with Qualcomm?
Qualcomm, I've been looking at them a lot lately for the longer term. And man, I'm really glad to see them starting to gap up like this. Those earnings obviously went pretty well for them. Obviously AMD's been killing it as well, but I've been looking at them for the longer term. I wish I would have grabbed them on that dip down there, but man, they're looking pretty solid. They're getting back up to this resistance though, around like 150 to 151. So we're like really close there. But other than that, I think it looks like a pretty good play for like the next couple months. I think that we might come back up and retest this 160 resistance. And, I would almost expect MU to kind of follow suit and maybe start popping up as well, if AMD and Qualcomm are doing so good.
All right. And then I'm just checking a couple different stocks right now. DraftKings is kind of just inching up there. It's up around 0.5% right now. It had a nice bounce this morning at like 50, and it's kind of retesting like the opening price of like 51. Do you have any levels on this one?
That $50 break was pretty big for me. And we honestly came right down today. It opened, touched $50, and then went running right back up. So that's honestly a really good intraday sign. And this looks like a pretty solid setup for like maybe a good intraday run, possibly, especially if we get that type of momentum that we saw yesterday come in. This honestly looks really good. $50, I think, is going to be the best level to watch for the shorter term. Let me kind of go back on this 90-day, 15-minute to see like where a good like upper level is. I would say the high of pre-market at 51.50 is a pretty good upper level, but I think up there around 52 is even bigger.
Gotcha. And we have Click saying, is any chance for a split Amazon? So, I think there's always a chance for Amazon to split, but, in the past, I'm surprised they haven't already, but I think it was, what was it, like a couple months ago, I think some, like, high-level Amazon executives, like, kind of hinted at it, or they said they were, like, open to a split, or it was something along those lines. So it's definitely possible, but, obviously there's no way to, like, predict that accurately, but in my opinion, it would make sense if they did split.
Yeah, that would make sense. And there's been a lot of speculation coming out with people trying to say like, well, hey, if Jeff Bezos is leaving, maybe he's been the one keeping them from splitting. So maybe now they'll split, or who knows, but you would think they would have to eventually. I mean, honestly, like even though they're breaking out to all-time highs, which is great, they're moving pretty well. The moves aren't that big, like from like their bottom level of 2,800 to the top is only like 30%. Now, that's not terrible, especially for a stock this price, but I just think a lot more buyers would start coming into this if it was a lower price. But in the end, with fractional shares and everything now, it might be helping Amazon. But just like I said, though, I think it would just drive in a little bit more investors. But it seems like Amazon might not even need it, honestly, for the longer term. But who knows? Maybe they just want to be known as like one of those higher valued stocks.
Well, the value would be the same. It would just be the price. So, yeah, I mean,
yeah, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
it's a big, like for instance, for retail traders especially, it's a really big mental game almost.
Yeah.
They'll see $3,000 and think, wow, that's the best stock on the market.
Right.
But then meanwhile, we might have Apple beating it in valuation. But
Yeah.
in reality, it's not, more.
Right. For sure. For sure. All right. And then we have Alex saying, how is NEO for today? So let's take a look. NIO, it's bouncing up pretty well. It's up around 2.5%. Intraday, they are breaking out, which is good. They're retesting that resistance in pre-market right around, like, you could say like this $43 area, but like the high is like $43.30. So I would say that's the major resistance to watch out for on NEO. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Neo looks pretty solid actually. Hitting off that 40 support. To me, that's the best level. I know you mentioned that. That's my favorite level. There is those upper resistances around like the 43 and those type of areas. Definitely look out for those though. Over the next like couple days. I do love the setup today though, how it gapped up, kind of went back. Sorry about that. Kind of went back down, retested that 42 support. Looks like it's heading back up pretty nicely actually. So I actually I kind of like Neo's setup here, especially with that move off of 40. If we were still above 40, I might look for it to come back down and retest that a little bit. But now that we tested it, I think it looks pretty solid. And maybe for like the next couple of weeks, this might be honestly like a little bit of a golden play right here. It seems so solid. I'll definitely go look at the flow at them today and see if anybody else is trying to, hop back into some calls right now, or maybe if they're selling some puts right here.
Sounds good. Zoom is popping, almost up 7% today. Like intraday, it's just exploding. These candles are huge, and they're a solid company, so I'm glad to see it. And then we have Jorge saying DBX, a slow mover, but it's been going up nicely. Let's take a look. DBX. So it is, it's definitely popping up. Definitely a slow mover, but just be careful for that earnings report next week, actually.
Yeah, DBX has been really killing it though the past couple days and like the past few months. It's looking really solid actually for a good play like back to the upside. And just be careful, like Mike said, with those earnings. With it being so high, that kind of scares me. Sometimes we see earnings go a little south with stocks that are so overextended, kind of like we saw like with Facebook, for example. Like Facebook was sitting at all-time highs and they had good earnings, but the earnings just couldn't really keep up with what that momentum was having in the short term. And you could say it was already priced in with Snapchat too. So just be careful with some of these other stocks, kind of like Facebook. And especially the stocks that have been moving up a lot. It takes really strong earnings to kind of keep up that momentum. And if it only beats earnings a little bit, it might still go down, was what I'm trying to say.
All right, and then we have Matthew asking about gold. So GLD is popping up. It's up around 1%, and it's looking pretty good. I think that the trend is pretty strong, and I actually like it to the upside.
Yeah, really good turnaround with Powell talking. There was that huge support actually at 168 on GLD. I think it looks pretty solid. There is a resistance, though, right here around 170 to 171. So be a little careful of that, but I will say the movement's very solid. And ever since Powell talked, gold has went straight up. So that must be a really good sign for it in the shorter term. And maybe him talking about inflation being up for the next few months will help GLD kind of get back up there. And like I said, I would almost target the 180 resistance if you were going to play this one to the upside. I wouldn't really think that we're going to hit new highs or anything like that on GLD, the ETF anyways.
All right, and then we have Polsky Beast saying thoughts on Diz. So this is probably my favorite play right now. It's more of an investment than a trade. I really like it for the long term. For the short term, it's looking pretty good too.
Yeah, there's a big resistance at like 180, and we're sitting like right at it to slightly above. It's looking pretty solid. We're popping up today, and it looks like we're breaking this upper resistance. So we might see a pretty solid move today if this can continue. We're already up 0.88%, which is a decent move for Disney. Disney doesn't have huge like 5% days or anything. Their average day is around probably like this, 0.5% to like 0.8%. So that's a good move for them. And hopefully we can continue this. We're still below the 100 SMA, but man, I love to see it breaking this type of resistance. That's a really good sign.
For sure. And then we have Corbin saying Tilray isn't looking strong. I mean, these MJ stocks are all over the place. Like yesterday, they were exploding. Today, they're pulling back a little bit. One thing to keep in mind is that they did have like a really really strong day yesterday, up like almost 25% or something like that. So it is normal to see a pullback like this, but I definitely know what you mean, Corbin. Like they are all over the place, and they're definitely hard to trade.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard to like catch this one back on the downside. Like if you're going to play it back up, it looks like right now might be a decent time, but somewhere down here around $15 seems to be a pretty good support.
All right. And yeah, so that's basically all the questions for right now. It looks like CLF is popping up intraday. They're up like 6%, and they have a lot of momentum pushing them up. Looks like they're actually breaking their, oh no, I was going to say breaking their all-time high, but that max weekly chart is pretty nasty.
Wow, yeah, it looks like they were one of those big stocks back around like 2008 area. Got killed in 2008. That's not a good sign, but man, yeah, they have a lot of upside potential though, like possibly for like the next couple of years, which is a good sign. But yeah, definitely off their all-time high. That's honestly pretty crazy how high they got again, even in like 2011.
For sure. All right, we have Santiago saying thoughts on SPY for the day. So it is green, which is great to see. They have a pretty strong resistance at 441, so definitely keep your eye on that. I mean, I'm not necessarily like bullish specifically on the SPY. I'm just looking at a couple individual stocks. Like I was looking at Zoom, but it's already up 7% right now, so I feel like it's already too late for that one. I'm looking at DASH to the downside, Qualcomm to the upside. I'm just looking at a couple individual stocks so far today, but the SPY's not looking bad. It's definitely in the green, which is awesome to see. Hunter is saying QFIN is getting clapped. Let's see, QFIN. Oh, wow, 16%. Looks pretty brutal. He said SAVA too. Yeah, wow, 22%. Wow, this is looking pretty rough.
Yeah, Cassava is honestly coming down big time from that like 140 level they were at earlier. That's a pretty big drop.
Alrighty. Let's see what we have. 11 saying Citrix is looking so strong. Let's see. We got to get a ticker on this one. Citrix. What is it? CTXS, I believe. CTXS. Well, they're down 16%, so I doubt it's that one. Wait. Yeah. So CTXS. This one's down like 16%. Doesn't look too strong to me.
Yeah, he might be trying to get. Sometimes these stocks that fall like this will come back up. Maybe he's trying to catch it back up, and a lot of people try to do that with some of these stocks. If that's not what you're doing, definitely let us know. But if this is what you're doing, I will say be pretty careful. When a stock falls 16%, it's normally not good. Now we might see a comeback. It might pop back up to 100 or 105 or something and recover back over the next couple days. But the chances of that I think are going to be pretty low. Usually we'll see that recovery out of bigger stocks like like Apple or Amazon or something.
All right. And then we have Jared saying thoughts on Apple calls. It held up on the 20 SMA on the daily. I feel as if Apple was already priced in for positive earnings, so I don't know if I should sell the news, buy puts, or calls. So personally, I am not bullish on Apple. That's just my opinion. Of course, it can keep going up, but personally, I don't think it's worth the risk. And then another thing is I saw a lot of put buying from like a lot of high money traders, you can say, like a lot of not necessarily golden sweeps, but like a lot of large put orders have been filled on Apple over like the past week or so. So personally, it's not worth the risk for me. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it's really worth the risk either. There is a lot of tech stocks and stuff hitting all-time highs, which can be pretty good, and Apple is kind of moving back up today. It looks pretty solid. If they do start to break out to all-time highs, then I'll just have to treat it as more of like a momentum play. But I don't think I'll personally be too bullish on them. Like, for example, like if I was going to get a swing that's maybe like the expiration might be like a month or two out right now, and it was a swing to the upside, I would not be too confident in that. So that's the main reason there. But there is a lot of upper resistance at 150. It's almost like Apple double top there. I know that we've been talking about this a lot the past couple of days with Apple maybe double topping there. So there could be some pretty good resistance, and we might see it like, maybe start to fall off to the downside there.
All right. mRNA is pulling back a little bit today, Tom. This one's been all over the place. I know it was running up a lot yesterday and especially over the past couple of weeks, but it's down 3% today, and I would expect it to fall a lot more.
Yeah, me too. And it's actually starting to get below like this key level from a couple days ago at 340. So the move to the downside is pretty significant, I think. And man, a lot of people have been looking at this one lately, and I think a lot of people have been honestly eyeing it up to the downside. So that might help it honestly in the short term, and hopefully it continues to go down. I know that yesterday though it had a lot of momentum, and hopefully that momentum stays away because that was a pretty big recovery day yesterday. And I'm glad to see though that it was unable to break out to all-time highs again.
All right, and then we have Mike saying thoughts on Penn. So I really like this one for the long term. They're down around like 1.7% today, but this is more of like a longer term play for me. I've been eyeing leaps on it, but I think I'm just going to wait till after their earnings report. They have earnings pretty soon, actually. They have earnings on, what is that, August 5th. So, yeah, I'm really eyeing it, and I actually like it just for the long term right now.
Yeah, I think that might be the best way to go for this one, honestly, is just shares or just like leaps for the longer term. I don't think that we're going to be breaking these like lower supports around like $64, $65 anymore. So hopefully we can hold these levels, start to go back up. And like you said, these earnings might really be a good catalyst for them. And, the earnings have helped a few stocks kind of turn around. So we might see that with Penn and a couple others. And plus, like we just had like the NBA playoffs and everything like that going on in the past quarter. So hopefully that helps these guys with their money situations.
All right. And then we have, let's see, we have Maine saying thoughts on BABA. Let's take a look. BABA. So this one's been all over the place. I like it for the long term, but you have to be willing to just understand if you get into this, there's gonna be a lot of crazy catalysts, a lot of unexpected things from China and all that stuff. So I think it's at a pretty good level. Just understand that it has some very unique risks.
Yeah, you might need to go see a psychiatrist while you're holding this one, is what Mike's trying to say. Like, you're going to have to be pretty emotionally stable and almost just, if you buy shares, for example, for the longer term of this one, you're just going to have to throw this stock out the window, like not even think about it anymore. Just let it go for a couple of years, and you'll probably come back to some pretty good gains, to be honest. But that'll be a pretty hard thing to do. You'll probably hear some crazy news about this one.
All right. So I'm curious, is anyone in this chat going to buy the Robinhood IPO today? Let me know. I know that, we have some very mixed opinions about this one because it's, some people are saying that no, they suck, but some people are saying even though I hate them, they have a good business model. So let me know. I'm very curious if anyone's going to be buying this Robinhood IPO. Personally, I'm not going to, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just I'm very curious.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get it either, but that will be pretty interesting to see some of these responses in the chat. I know a lot of people love Robinhood, a lot of people hate them. So there's a lot of mixed opinions as far as that goes. And man, whenever they come on the market, really expect some crazy moves. Like I know we just saw LCID come on the market earlier this week. And for those first few minutes, it was pretty volatile. And I think Hood will be a lot more volatile than this. And I think that what did it say, Mike? They started to sell at $38. So we might open up a lot higher than that. Like sometimes we see these stocks like Coinbase open up, almost double their valuations and stuff like that. So we might see some pretty crazy moves, honestly, with Hood at open. And man, I'm really curious, is anyone going to be buying this? It's really interesting because I haven't heard too many people talk about it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a couple people talk about it, but there are some very negative opinions towards Robinhood. So, like you said, there's a ton of mixed opinions, but we have some of the responses saying, so Sean said, looking forward to buying Robinhood puts.
There we go.
And then we have Santiago saying, people are saying Hood is a trap for shorts. Maybe. G saying, I was thinking about getting Hood, but I'm really skeptical. Yeah, I mean, I think that's how a lot of people feel. And then Hunter said, just want their options to come out in 5 trading days. And then, then you can mess around with, like, the puts and the calls and, spreads and all that stuff. Jared said, no IPO, they are corrupt. Block selling for the original GME pump. Yeah, I know that there was a lot of craziness that happened back in, what was it, February January and February of this past year. And then Keisha said, Mike and Tom, this might be a dumb question, but are you guys brothers? No, we're not brothers. We're just we've been trading together for a long time. And then yeah, so that's basically it with all the Robinhood questions. But I'm curious to see, Tom, how this Robinhood IPO goes, because like you said, there's a ton of different mixed opinions on it, and at the end of the day, whether you like them or you don't like them, they make a lot of money, and they're growing at a pretty crazy pace.
Yeah, that is a big thing. They're pretty sound fundamentally. Like even though they've done some questionable things and everything like that, in the end they're going to probably make a lot of money. And I would say for the longer term, their stock will probably do pretty well as long as they don't, like obviously if their valuation's at 38 a share and then they open today at 60 a share or something nuts, then obviously I think we might see a weird type of move, or obviously then we might go down. But I think for the longer term, Robinhood might do pretty well. And they keep in mind they sell everyone's data and they make a lot of money doing that. So that's one of their big that might be their biggest way, obviously, of making money. So look at that. And then just one other thing to keep in mind is a lot of people are saying that they want to short Robinhood and stuff. Robinhood actually said that they kind of expect trading as far as like their volume on options and on crypto to kind of start going down. So if that does happen, then we might see Robinhood have to report some maybe quarterly losses or something really weird right off the bat on some of these first earnings reports. So it might be a little weird for them fundamentally in the beginning.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a very interesting catalyst, and I'm just excited to see how they do. And then we have Hunter saying puts on Vlad's haircut. Oh no. That's the CEO of Robinhood. Yeah, I know he's not the most popular among retail traders, but let's pull him up, Tom.
Vlad from Robinhood. Oh my gosh, look at that is that a new haircut? He looks like a knight from back in the day. This one I think is the one Hunter was referring to though. Yeah, he's definitely a pretty funny guy, and you can go watch some of his interviews with him and Elon Musk and just different things like that on YouTube. And it's he's pretty interesting to say the least. I'll just leave it there.
What did Elon call him? I know Elon called him something.
He called him Vlad the Creator or something.
No, what was it? It was
Vlad the Impaler.
Was it? It might have been that. I don't know. It was pretty funny though. We have Muscle saying, "Good morning, y'all. Watching AMD and adding to positions Tesla and Tesla, looking for opportunities to buy a run up. Great job, Mike and Tom." There we go. Yeah. What was it? I'm trying to think.
It says, "Oh, here we go. Vlad the Stock Impaler."
Yeah,
that's what it was. Okay.
Gotcha. All right, we have G saying thoughts on the meme stocks on the day: AMC, GME, and Clove. All right, let's take a look. AMC, it's up a little bit. GME, I mean, they're probably all moving the same way. Let's see. Well, actually, Clove is falling, but they're all over the place. In my opinion, it's not worth getting into calls or puts at this time. The only one I like out of those three would be Clove, and it would probably be shares, to be honest, because it's all over the place, and it's at a nice support level, and at least shares you don't have to worry about time.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Is the timing with Clove might be pretty hard. It might consolidate down here around $8 for quite a while. I know it's been down here for a couple weeks right now, and it's just been a pretty hard one to trade lately.
Yep. And then we have Corbin saying, "How is the old AMC doing? My friend says the shorts haven't covered. Keep holding. I'm waiting to buy a call if he is right." So, personally, I'm not a fan of AMC right now. I think that the momentum has really died off. And for a stock like AMC, retail trader sentiment and their, how they treat and view AMC is, it has a huge impact on the stock. And what I'm trying to say is, a couple months ago, everyone was talking about AMC. It was all over CNBC. It was everywhere, but now, yes, people are talking about it, but it's not the same. And I think we're definitely seeing that reflected in the stock price. I know that there are shady things going on with some of these institutions with AMC, but at the end of the day, the institutions have a lot of power, and I just think it'll be really hard at this point for AMC to explode, especially to levels that certain people were saying a couple months ago. Like, I remember, like, we would make a video, Tom, and, you know, we would have at least like 20 comments saying AMC to $1,000 a share, or like some were even saying $500,000 a share, which is just crazy, and that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, that probably won't happen. That's a pretty big thing. And, if obviously that's at this point, it's probably not gonna, and we're seeing the way that this stock is moving right now in the shorter term. And it's just not a good thing to see right now. So hopefully it can kind of get back up there. But for right now, it's really bouncing off that 40 resistance in the short term. And I think, Mike, you kind of hit it on the head there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of YouTubers out there that are still like pumping this thing, and I understand the movement, and I back the movement, but I don't want to like say, hey, this thing's gonna explode when odds are it's not gonna. So, I hope it does pop for everyone who's holding it, but it's just it's a tough one to comment on. And then Hunter said 500K a share, and I'll ship everyone here one of my toes. Well, Hunter, you got lucky on that first deal with what was it, like the oil or something? What was it, Hunter? Was it like $500 a share it had to hit, or $1,000, or it was something like that? And I know you were getting a little bit nervous when it was running up on, what was that, June 2nd? It was running pretty hard, so you never know. Then we have Matthew asking about the DAX. So it's the German ETF. We're not really we don't really follow this one too much. I mean, it's popping up today. I wish I could give you more insight on this one, Matthew, but we don't really follow it too much. It's making higher lows, which is great. It has a strong resistance around $34 and then $35.40. But besides that, I don't have much other info to give you.
Yeah, this one's going to be pretty hard to trade. There's a lot of German stocks thrown in here, obviously, and it's just kind of hard to tell that market. But I would treat it almost like the Dow, like for the longer run, I think it'll be pretty good, but it always has these like short-term pullbacks and stuff, of course. And a lot of this depends on like European news that obviously like it doesn't get covered here too much.
Yep, for sure. So let's see. We have G saying, appreciate the realist expectation on AMC. I was thinking the same thing. So yeah, I mean, I hope it does pop for everyone, but like it's not likely in my opinion. And I'm just gonna watch it either way, and I hope it does pop. Hunter said, okay, so his old bet was $100 was the price target, and if that were to happen, he was gonna cover himself in vegetable oil and slide around like Gary the Snail. Hunter, you got pretty close. It was at 73, and it was running hard. So I know you had to be at least a little bit nervous.
Yeah, I know, because I know from experience he must have been nervous, because I still haven't made my shrine from whenever GameStop went up to 483. I didn't think they'd break all-time highs of like $60, so I definitely lost out on my bet. I was really hoping I would get to see Hunter slide around on the ground, but man, I didn't get to, I didn't get that type of pleasure, unfortunately.
Tom, you were early with GME. You called it at like 60 or something, and it went to like what, almost 500.
Yeah, but it only took like 2 days later actually for it to do that, which was kind of insane. But yeah, I thought it was going to stop at like those all-time highs around 60, and I still need to like make a little shrine and pray to it every day.
Oh gosh. All right, so we have Keisha saying, I saw that pop coming in Zoom. That's why I asked if you guys are still bullish on it this morning. Well, great eye on that one. That thing is popping. Let me see it real quick. So it's up like over 5% now, but it was up 7%. So great eye right there. And then we have Jared saying, y'all still call out positions in the premium part of the Discord. Yes, we do. And then let's see. We have Hunter saying, I was starting my car to go to the store. Vicky asking about LYFT. All right, let's take a look. LYFT. This one is in the green a little bit. They have earnings pretty soon. Looks like on August 3rd after market close. It looks like we might see a little bit of a pre-earnings run-up right here.
Yeah, it looks pretty decent, actually. It's kind of breaking out of this like little resistance it had like right around $56, and it honestly looks pretty solid today, and maybe for like the next couple days heading into those earnings. But obviously the earnings are going to be a gamble.
All right. Click is saying gold is still going up. Yeah, I saw that. It's powering up pretty nicely, GLD, and I actually saw a ton of call buying today. Let me get the exact expiration for everyone. 1 minute. Okay, here it is. So, Tom, it's the October chain, and it is the 190 strike calls. There were almost 44,000 calls bought today. A ton of money is flowing into the GLD 190 calls for October 15th. So with this one, I'm worried because 190 is really far out of the money, you know?
Yeah, that's so far that it would make me think that they're shorting it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like we don't know that they're buying them, right?
Yeah, we don't know that they're buying them. I mean, I just think it's interesting that they're loading up on calls. GLD is exploding, but like, why are they so far out of the money?
Yeah, that's really hard to say, to be honest. Like you would think, even if gold starts to fly up, like it's going to be pretty hard for it to get back up to 190. Even by like October, it could definitely do that, but it'd be almost like a straight up scenario at that point. Gold's a pretty like slow and steady stock, so it would or GLD anyway. So we would have to see some pretty solid moves, but who knows? We might see it. I mean, if they are longing that, I think that would be pretty nuts. Maybe that's covered calls. I don't know. That's what I would hope that those were. But in the end, man, that if we start to see like GLD hit like 180 like next week or something, then I could think that they might have been longing those.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking that it was a covered call actually, because the stock's popping up, and I don't see the smart money loading. Like when you're gonna put that much money into it, why would you buy the 190 strike? Like it just.
Yeah, you could have just bought like the 170 even, or the 160, or even like the 180 would have been a lot better.
So I just think that there's more to the position that we don't see. Like who knows? They might be. Who knows? Literally, they may have a different call already that they bought a couple weeks ago, and this is a spread, or this. There's so many variables with it, but I think the most likely scenario is like it's a covered call, and they're just buying up the shares and they're looking to flip it to 190 in a couple months. So we'll see how it goes. I'm actually gonna put this one on my watch list. So let me save this real quick. And then we have Jared saying spot calls 2 weeks out, huge overreaction. So he was asking about spot calls for 2 weeks out. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that Spotify could do pretty decent. I don't know why they've been tanking off so much in the shorter term. I'll definitely have to kind of like look into that. But I think that Spotify has been a pretty decent company the past few years. And I would hope that they could maybe hold this support around like 210 and maybe start to go back up, kind of like what they've been doing the past couple of days.
All righty. Give me 1 second. All right. And then we have Jorge saying AMD is still going 101 plus. There we go. It's popping up. It looks great. Muscle saying watching Tilray and Enphase. Thoughts? Apple on the slow rise again. So, yeah, I like them both. I like Enphase for the long term. Tilray's not bad for the long term either. It's just a little bit riskier. But yeah, I actually like Tilray for like the next couple weeks.
Yeah, me too. I think Tilray might start to have some pretty good moves. And like we kind of talked about earlier, it went up like 25% yesterday. So just having a little like 2% pullback today isn't the worst thing in the world.
Alrighty. And then we have, let's see. Then we have Keisha saying, what do you think of Netflix? They are holding strong on the 517 support. Let's take a look. Netflix on the 517 support. Looks good. It's above that right now. It's down slightly, but looks good overall. Trying to see some other levels. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. So 517 support, and there's like another level like right around 514. I don't know if you see that one, but it bounced off of it a couple times. So 514 is the support after 517, and let's say it breaks out. There's some resistance, obviously at 520, but after that, the next major one I see is like 522.
Yeah, I see that as well. And there's a huge upper resistance at like 550 if we go really far up there. But on the daily, I will say though, Netflix, keep in mind they had those earnings like last week, I think it was. The earnings ended up not being too good. Yeah, we can see it sent Netflix down a little bit. They're still not up to like those levels that they were at at earnings up at like 530-ish. So just be careful with them in the shorter term. They didn't report the best earnings, and they actually like lost some subscribers.
Gotcha.
Or they didn't lose any, but I should say they missed their estimate by quite a bit.
Gotcha. All right. And then we have Trading Desk saying, in fact, Spot had a nice gap down to fill. Yeah, so I saw that it was popping back up, so it's not bad at all. They're a solid company, and they are definitely a powerhouse, and I know that over the past year or so, they've made some pretty big deals, like I know this was a while ago, but, with that Joe Rogan podcast deal, I'm a fan of Spotify.
Yeah, those deals were really pushing them up for that short term, for in that short little while. Like it just kept going and going. Like I remember Joe Rogan was the first one, really pushed them up. Maybe they just need some good catalyst or something, but it does scare me a little because maybe Spotify is just kind of phasing out, which would be a pretty bad thing to see. But I hope that that's not the case because their stock has been pretty solid the past couple of years. I just think that they've just been pulling back.
Yeah, so Tom, I think you cut out a little bit right there. Can you just give us a quick little summary? Because it looks like you cut out for probably 20 seconds or so. Tom, you there? So yeah, it looks like Tom may have cut out again. We'll see what happens. So yeah, Hunter goes, Tommy. Thought we lost Tommy Tenders again. I think we did.
Hello.
Okay, now you're back.
Okay, we're working.
Okay.
All right, let's pray that it goes right this time. Okay.
All right.
So Spotify, I'm pretty much just saying that I hope that there's some more type of catalyst like what we saw with Joe Rogan and stuff. Maybe they just need some more people on there. Hopefully Spotify is not kind of phasing out because it's been pretty good.
All righty. And then let's see. We have Corbin saying they could sell the GLD calls early just to take profits from the premium run-up. Yeah, they definitely can, Corbin, but the thing is why would they go that far out of the money? I think that's definitely a possible scenario, but if we go to that option, let me plot the delta value real quick. So if we go to the delta, 190 calls, I mean the delta is only, that's the thing, the delta is only 0.11. So, they can make 4 times the amount of money if they just went at the money, or if they went in the money, they can make 7 or 8 times. So it's definitely possible, but I just think because it's so far out of the money, it's kind of makes me feel like they're covered calls or something like that. And ultimately, we'll never know, but I'll have it on my watch list for the next couple months or so, and I'll definitely have my eyes on it.
Yeah, and one other thing I just wanted to throw in there is everybody's been talking a lot about lately, gold's been a good hedge play on the market, but man, gold has honestly been going up with the market. Every time Powell talks and makes the market fly up, it normally makes gold fly up too. And it's weird to see gold up as much as it is today, kind of with the SPY too. And I know gold has a lot to do with the dollar. So we could look at DXY $DXY, but the dollar's down a lot. So that honestly makes a lot of sense now why gold is starting to fly up with the dollar actually starting to tank off and looking like we might come back down and retest those $90 lows actually on the US dollar. So that's honestly a pretty crazy turnaround here out of the USD. And if we start to see it turn back to the upside, that's where we'll see gold go down. So maybe whoever's playing these gold calls has some big position actually on the dollar, or maybe they're looking at the dollar in a different sense or something like that.
All right, Tom. Well, do you have any last-minute stocks or anything you're watching for the rest of the day?
Man, AMD was so strong earlier. I wish I could keep watching it today, but I just feel like it has to slow down soon. But it has a lot of momentum. Definitely watching them. I'm really going to be watching MU for the next couple days too. Looking for another rise out of them, kind of like what we're seeing with AMD, Qualcomm, and some others. I think that this stock is pretty devalued given it's at 76 and the highs are at 97. I think that's a pretty far off its highs for such a good, semiconductor stock. So definitely will be watching them too. But my favorite stock right now, just for intraday setup so far, has been AMD. That thing's just been rocketing.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining today's stream. We had a great time. The market's going crazy. Be on the lookout for that Robinhood IPO later today. But thank you guys so much for joining, and we hope you have an amazing rest of your day.